Do you ever go to bed with fervent motivation that tomorrow's going to be the day you're going to change everything, only to find that 15 minutes into your day, instead of getting that 16-hour workday where you completely change your life around, you fall off track, you get distracted, you procrastinate, and before you know it, it's the same time the next day and you're having the exact same thoughts? I do, and it sucks. But there is a way I've discovered to help this. Now, before you ask, it's not just be more motivated, just work harder, as inspiring as Arnold can be. Instead, it's working smart. It's treating yourself like an adult and figuring out the best way to get the most out of your days without working yourself to death or putting unreal expectations on yourself. Now, obviously, I'm not saying don't be motivated. Of course, you should be working towards stuff you care about, something you're motivated towards. But the thing with motivation is, really, we like to think of it as something where it should be a steady stream, but often it ends up being more like a crashing wave. It comes strong, sometimes it lasts for days, weeks, months, even a couple years, but it's always going to fade after a while. And that doesn't mean you can't get it back. In fact, there are plenty of ways to get motivation back and keep it high, and I'll write a video on that at a later date. But what I'm saying is that motivation can give you that drive to work hard, but it's not necessarily going to make you work smart. Working smart, in a way, often feels counterproductive at first, because you have to take time away from actually doing the thing you consider productive to structure your life in a way where you're going to be able to achieve more when you're working. So, what are we going to do to get the most out of our day? Well, the simple answer is stuff like scheduling and journaling, but the long version is a lot more complex than that. Scheduling is so much more than just writing down the things you want to do in a day, maybe in a given order. It's about figuring out how your energy levels work throughout the day. It's about working out what things you care about most, how much time you have to achieve all the things you care about, and often sacrificing the things you care about less to have more time for the things you want to do more. Unfortunately, we only have about 16 hours in a given day if you're awake. And let's be honest here, unless you're Elon Musk, you don't have the energy or really the time to actually get that much out of your day. You've got traveling, family, boyfriend or a girlfriend, whatever it is, there are going to be plenty of things that get in your life that get in the way of that. So those 16 hours are already going to drop down to maybe 10 or 12. So then you've only got, and if you've got a job, well then on weekdays you've probably got 4 hours? Maybe 6. But you're not going to be able to get that full 8 unless you really, really throw yourself at something hard and have an extreme amount of motivation. So how can we actually get the most out of those 6 to 8 hours? Well, the first things first is you got to write down everything you care about most at the moment. So a great way to think about this is to try a 5-year plan or a 1-year plan. Just write down all the goals of what you want to see yourself like in a year or 5 years. Knowing where you want to be in all areas of your life, finances, relationships, your careers, your hobbies, your passions, everything. Knowing where you want to be with all of those will help you create a clear list of everything you need to be doing in your life to achieve those things. Well, then once you've got that list, you can think of it and you can have a look at a schedule and think, can I get this all done in one day? And the likely answer is probably not. But if you can, brilliant. So because you only have so many hours in a day and you're likely not going to have the time to do all of these things, the best thing to start off with is you want to rank order these things in terms of how much you care about them. And also write a separate order on how much time you think you need to put into this per day to achieve that thing. This is going to give you a really great idea of what habits or what things in your life you might want to cut. So a great example I like to give is I am really into writing, into fitness. I'm starting a marathon training regimen recently, and I'm also an esports player. But as important as esports is to me, I care more about my writing. It's got better job prospects. I care more about developing myself, on social media, stuff like this. And the effort it takes to do a couple Instagram posts is 10 minutes a day? But if you want to get great at esports, well, that's 3 hours per day, probably at a minimum. So you're thinking, well, even if you care about something a lot, if it's going to completely dominate your life, then it's something to probably take off your schedule before you even think about what you're going to be doing in a given day. So hopefully you've now got a good idea of the things you want to be doing in a given day. The thing you've got to consider is your energy levels here. So different people have energy in different parts of the day. I know myself, I'm a morning person. I like to just get out of bed straight away, throw those covers off, make the bed, attack the day, and then by 8 o'clock I'm wanting to fall asleep and I can barely keep myself awake to cook dinner. But I know plenty of people in the past, who they like to lay in bed for 2 hours, barely get themselves out, but then by 12 o'clock they're still working like a maniac, whilst I can barely keep my eyes open. So there's no one approach about this. You really need to figure out what's right for you, and it's not just in terms of how the day goes, it's in terms of the tasks you're doing. I know plenty of people who work out in the morning because they feel it gives them energy, but I know for me, when I work out, it drains me. So I put my working out, my gym, my running, whatever it is, very late into the day, simply because I know after I've done that, I'm not going to be able to do anything else, but I can still do it quite well later into the day. Meanwhile, for some people, if it does energize you, do put it in the morning, because that's going to help you out better. Now you'll have a list from the start of your day to your finish of everything you want to be doing in that day in your given order. Maybe it's wake up, do your writing, work out, go to your job, get home, read some books, go see friends, whatever it is. You'll have that good structure there. But now we need to go a step further. Well, how can we go further than that? Well, we need to take almost a mathematical approach with it. There's this really great book I read a couple years ago by a guy called Chris Bailey. It's called Hyperfocus. And one of the concepts he talks about in this book is the idea of structuring your day to the point where you use specific times to allocate different slots in your day. A really notable example of this is Elon Musk, who famously structures his day into 5-minute time allocations. Now, obviously, you or me won't have the time to do that. It'd probably take you most of the way just to get that all structured in the first place, let alone to actually carry it out. Of course, that doesn't mean you shouldn't bother at all. There are certainly some great ways to do it. I personally like to use 15-minute allocations, simply because that's a fairly easy block to work with that you can quickly go throughout your whole day, and it gives you that flexibility a lot more than just going by half an hour or hour by hour. What we find is that by using specific time allocations, for example, 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to write, you're ending up a lot more efficient for a couple of reasons. First things first, knowing that you cannot work after 8 o'clock means that between that 7 and 8 o'clock hour period, you're going to be really passionate, you're going to work harder, you might even enter hyper-focused state. That's because you care about this thing quite a lot, hopefully. And if you know that by the end of this time you won't have any more time to work on it, well, you're going to push yourself to work as hard as you can. It also means that when you're done, you feel satisfied with the work you've done, and then you're happy moving on to the next task, knowing you've completed it and you're ready to attack the next task. It's going to mean that you're not going to fall behind in any one task too much by overworking on one and not enough on the other. This means that when you think about how much time you need to put into each of your tasks to actually achieve your 1-year goal or 5-year plans, you're actually going to be able to do it a lot more successfully. Of course, there are plenty of problems with this. We're not taking into account procrastination here. Now, that's something I'm going to make a separate video on at a later date. Procrastination is something that will get in the way. I'm not going to pretend it isn't. But there are ways to tackle this. But still, having a schedule and having time allocations is going to push yourself to work as hard as you can. And if you can stop yourself from procrastination, that's going to be even better. Of course, there are other things you can do on top of that. One thing I find is really helpful is journaling. Now, the benefit of journaling comes from the fact that you're able to identify any problems that are happening in your life, even within a given week. Because if every day you're writing down everything you did well, everything you did poorly, well then even within a few days, you're going to be very quick to identify any trends in your life that are detrimental to you. For one thing, maybe it's you're sleeping in too late, or you're sleeping poorly, or you're eating late, or perhaps you're not working hard enough in one of your given things. You're skipping gym, you're skipping your running sessions, whatever it is. you're able to identify things a lot faster and then craft responses that will allow you to stop these problems. This is what I mean by working smart. It's taking time away from just working hard on the thing you care about, like actually writing, and thinking about how you can do it in a more efficient way, in order that when you do get to actually doing that writing, you're going to work harder, you're going to work smarter, and you're going to work for longer periods of time more consistently. This will mean that in the long run, you're going to achieve a lot more, because it's really rare that someone gets, the might of Zeus strikes them and they are just able to write a 200,000 word book in 2 weeks by turning into an absolute maniac. That's not going to happen to you, and maybe it'll happen once or twice in your lifetime, but realistically, if you want to achieve something big, it's about working consistently, doing good, even small amounts every day for weeks and months and years, and then before you know it, that dream you've had will actually come true. Because Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will your dreams be when you're focusing on your passions. You're going to have to work smart at these, you're going to have to work consistently, but then give it enough time, that flower will bloom, and you will achieve what you're looking for. You just need to work hard at it and consistently. So I wish you all the best of luck with that. If you find this kind of content interesting, I'm trying to work more on this kind of self-development style, mixing it with my interest in storytelling to give you a really fresh experience you've hopefully never had before. Well then, please give it a subscribe, hit that button, hit that like, you know all the jazz by now. And hopefully I can get some more content out to you in the near future. But in which case, thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day.